I'm going to do a little storytelling project. I thought maybe I'd do it up here on this roof. There's this deck on this roof that is a tree. I thought maybe it would be enough shade. It's got a nice view. I have my hair pulled back because I was doing dishes, trying to be practical, keeping things together. This is kind of like a 360 image that I capture that you can look around in a sphere, except that it's not. It's a video. I made some CBD oil and ate the dregs today. Made like a, boiled the weed after I poured the oil out of it, and there was more left. Rather, I poured the water and oil into a beaker and put it in the fridge, and the water mixture, which had some milk fat, I guess is emulsified so it can be in the water, and I drank it last night and it made me a little stoned. Drank the rest of it today, sharing it with Carl, and I'm stoned. I definitely notice that I'm stoned. I feel the stonedness. I'm in the stonedness. It is 12:30, so it's not a great time to sit in the sun. So I'm looking for a nice, comfy, shady space. There's a cement path. There are pieces of wood. There are ants. There's dust. I could crouch. I could crouch in the shade here. I could crouch in the shade. Look, there's a stump I might be able to put my tripod on. I'm stoned, so I have all these ideas. There's all these good ideas. Good idea. What's the good idea? Well, the good idea is like I'm a much better person when I'm a guest. Is that true? Judgments of selfing, judgmenting, imagining you can control your happiness. Fail. Old habits die hard, darling. It's like your training. Yeah, so I was just saying that when I've been a traveler, I've been doing dishes, I've been wiping down the countertops, I've been fixing the plumbing, meditating, teaching yoga, doing laundry, wandering in the woods, lost and confused, high on cocaine, not cocaine, cannabis, high on cannabis, cannabinoids, yeah, cannabinoids, yeah, very stoned. Yeah, totally gibberish walking around, looking for a nice cozy place. Crazy boy. Let's go sit by the head. Or crouch by the head if you can't bring yourself to sit. You were going to bring a towel out. I was totally going to bring a towel out. That would have been awesome. I'll hang out with this head for a minute instead. Oh, look, there's a head. And, yeah, I don't know if this is creative or just annoying. I'm pretty sure it's just annoying. But if I do my project of actually listening to all these videos and transcribing them and getting useful things out of them, then, no. This might entertain me and make me laugh. Let's plug in the headphones. I was just washing dishes and wiping the counters, and I had this, arithmetic. I was thinking how I was a better person when I travel because I wash the dishes and I fix the plumbing and I help out. I'm more gracious when I travel. It's a different person. It's a person that I nourished for a long time, and so I can step back into him only if I keep moving and remain unattached. Very Buddhist. I get very depressed if I'm just trying to be myself. And I was thinking about an image came into my mind, I think from a movie of someone aging very quickly. I remember the trail, the path. I was thinking about Carl saying that as soon as he gets this surgery, he'll be able to walk around like a normal person again. I thought of normal person because I was thinking about when I was a child. I grew up in Indiana, and there was the standard of normal, and I was raised with this idea that this is just what normal people, it's just normal, implying that if you don't do it, there's something unnormal about you, and then there's a problem. But he was like, yeah, once I get this surgery, then I'll be able to walk around like a normal person. And I thought about what it means to be 70 and the different ways you can be 70. The way Leo died before he reached 70. This guy reminds me a lot of Leo, this house, this situation. It's like Leo's public domain, but the man I'm staying with is not yet, because I haven't known him very long. Leo's dead, and he was an intrinsic part of my life for over a decade, so. At least under my domain, Dominic Dominion domain. And so I had this image of somebody aging, in denial of the aging process, what aging does. Hey, I'm coming to the party with you. Instantly, you're 100, and you're not cool anymore. And I thought about the God realms, because apparently that's what dying is like there. Life is incredibly long, but then when you start to die, when you start to age, or maybe you don't age in the God realm. But I think there's like an aging and then a dying, but the aging kind of happens compressed at the end, perhaps. Maybe because like the realm of fairy, you can wear glamour. If you keep your life force together, like Exit the King, like that story, you can keep a glamour together where you're sucking the life out of life to keep an appearance up until you no longer have the energy to suck the life out of life. And then you age and you collapse, you die and reincarnate. I thought about how I often say I don't worship any god, but I feel like they should be respected, and I try to be on good terms with any god in which I encounter. And I thought, well, of course, because recently I was a god. And then I thought of an excerpt, I believe, from the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche, but it may have been Trungpa Rinpoche in Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, but I'm pretty sure it's the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. He talks about the rounds of rebirth. Hell, for all I know, it could be the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, which is Tengyal Rinpoche, Tengyal, Sogyal, Chogyam, saying these names. Where he was describing the rounds of rebirth, and that you incarnate and you go up, you learn, you get smarter, you get stronger, you get better, you get nicer, you learn, you apply the skills, you get discipline, and your life becomes better, and you reincarnate into a higher realm. You go from an animal, you go from like an animal that's just ignorant up to being a human, and you're like, wow, I'm a human, wow, and I want to get better, and then you become a demigod, and you've got all this great stuff, but you're really jealous of everyone around you, who's going to take it away from you and make you lose it, and then you reincarnate out of that into the God realm, where everything's just pleasure all the time. Life is very long, but it passes very quickly. Because time flies when you're having fun. When it's all good times. All the good times, all the good times. The truth will mess you up, and you end up falling back into the demigod realms, and then falling down into the human realms, and then falling down into the animal realms, and then you crash into the hungry ghost realm, and then you suffer in the hell beings realm. Life isn't as long there, but it's incredibly long. Time passes slow when you're not having a good time. And then you start to purify yourself, and you get better, and you go back up the rounds. So it's up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. Last song for B. So I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was recently a god, and I like to be on terms with any god in which I should encounter, because they're good to be respected. It's good to respect your neighbors. Are you trying to get back into heaven, or have you just recently fallen from? Recently, like 1,000 years ago, I don't know. How long does it take? 1,000 years ago? Was it a fucking over 1,000 years ago that you fell from the god realms into this demigod realms, into the human realms on this earth? Have you been in the earth as a human each time you've been in the human class, if there is such a thing? And I'm washing the dishes and I'm thinking the path that I'm on, and these sensualists that I keep thinking I'm going to get something good and satisfying out of. I keep playing the game. Wow, I'm going to win at Samsara, and someday I'll be happy all the time. And I see the bears who are just aging and getting sick and dying, retreating. And even the successful ones, they've had their successes. And then you're like, oh, I'm riding this wave. I'm tired of riding this wave. And come down into old age, sickness, and death. You may have many waves at a time, but it's just going to happen. So I've definitely, if we look at the path, the bifurcation of the boga or the yoga, and if I'm like, oh, I'm totally into boga, this is awesome, I'm a bogey, and bogging around, yoga the poo, ibera roo, boo boo too. Anyway, so that if I keep choosing, keep trying, I said, I really like your house because it's not a normal house at all. There's like weird boxes sticking out of them with beds in them, out of the windows that are all like bay windows. And, it's pretty wonderful. The stairs go upside and down, so there's a weird little deck on the top of the house, and big open space with like a floating pillar. I don't know if I've ever seen such a thing. There's like high tension wires holding this pillar thing up against the ceiling in the middle of this open room. Used to be a grow house. Made a project out of it for 19 years or 16 years or whatever it was. And he said, now that it's done, I'm not really that interested in this house anymore. Can't rest on your laurels now when you got none. And what you gonna do when the novelty is gone? Yeah, what you gonna do when the novelty is gone? And then he'll like edit this together into this really long video, and people will be like, wow, he's so stoned. I'm like, yeah, I'm in this, I'm really stoned. I was trying to make this CBD oil for a friend who's in a lot of pain and has Parkinson's. So it was like medicinal. Somebody gave us high CBD, and they're like, there's hardly any THC in it. You're not getting stoned. It's fine. And I made an extraction with some coconut oil and butter, and then I drank the water with that milk fat in it. And I don't know. I was thinking I'm going to get all the polyphenols, and it made me really high. I'm really high right now. Yeah. So a lot of the time when I'm writing, my mind works like this anyway. I write, and snippets of songs will come up in my head, and I'll sometimes write them in and sometimes just not write them in, just let them play in my head, and I don't write them in. But if I'm really in a stream of consciousness writing, I'll just write song lyrics into what I'm writing. I've been doing that for 20 years or something. I don't know if I've ever had an experience where I was talking like this, trying to convey a point, and skitzing into songs. Kind of funny. You can laugh, it's kind of funny. The things you think, times like these. Anyway, so I was like, okay. I felt like I had a moment of insight where I was like, oh, I'm on my way down. I came from the God's realms and I'm coming down. I'm on the way down. I'm in this life, like a lot of this life started with me being like, I just want to be an animal. I want to play. I want to be the animal self. I want to respect the animal self, and like get naked out in the forest and fucking eating shit, getting sweaty, and liking the smell of being an animal. I'm heading back to the animal realm, and then I'll fall into the hungry ghost realm. I've been practicing in bathhouses and bars. I've been practicing in supermarkets and malls. And we all know what the hell realms are like. Like, we love the hell realms. This is suffering all the time. The full throttle into the suffering. All the time. Nothing else. No balance. I don't know what the balance is. Probably the only, like, recess from suffering the hungry ghosts get is when they just totally zone out. When they get so deluded that they just lock up and go, they reach moments of enlightenment. They get the diksha from intricate interlocking delusions that really aren't the truth, really aren't dharma. They're just gobbledygook, but it stops the suffering mechanism for a little while. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember what peace is like. And that's a parami, so you're getting on the way. And animals, is it ignorance or fear? This is a state they're always in. I think it's ignorance. Just not understanding what's going on. One of the things that happens in the God realms and the human realms and all realms really is the willful ignorance. Avidya, nescience. But in the animal realm, you've so completely created a hermetic seal, a spaceship, to travel through space in ignorance and delusion, in willful ignorance, in avidya and nescience, in total, like, the oblivion. Perfect spaceship of oblivion to travel through space. And unfortunately, every once in a while, some radiation gets through or aliens invade. Sometimes that's a saving grace. What is a self? Is it a self that's composed? Is it a self that is an open channel? Is it a self that's adaptable, permissible, communicable, communicatable? Must it be embarrassing or not embarrassing? Must it be entertaining? What is living like? Napping on the couch, eating sex, jerking off. Internet. Like. What is life like? Hearing the birds and spontaneously feeling that there is no difference between the birds, the sound, the body, the mind, the self, the room, the bed. Just a moment of the hearing, the sounding, the birding. Not feeling the bird making the sound, but being just knowing. The hearing, I suppose, just knowing the sound. As much as this perception vehicle is able to perceive, just knowing the sound. Organ. We are organs, organelles, organosos, organismos, organisms. We're organs in this gigantic body, creature beast. Microbiome, macrobiome. And what is life like? Processing. Gym? Dog walking? Maybe. Drinking at a bar? Maybe. Going to a play? Maybe. What's happening inside? Entertainment is too close. So, what is processing? Digesting. it happens totally automatically. Idea. Go on to hit record and post a link to this YouTube playlist and request people transcribe it and send me the transcriptions and any suggestions, or remix it, knowing fully that what I'm doing is absurd and real, whatever that is, somewhat honest and true, if not entertaining or useful, and that maybe somebody might make something like funny and mocking, like a meme, or somehow, no, memes aren't always mocking, they can be conveying things that are, in a play. They're usually humorous, though. I was thinking about in Portland how I took the last 3 or 4 days out of being there to have bad allergies or sinus infection, and did not leave the house and just tried to edit. And I did edit. No, I successfully edited. It took hours and lots of wasted time, but of going through all the photos, editing, getting it ready to post. And then it all lumped together. Oh, well. And it made me really depressed and unhappy, or I was depressed and unhappy and the sickness was a physical manifestation, or there was a pathogen from that guy's dick. I don't know. But I was like, well, and I thought of this man I'm staying with, that he said, I kind of lost interest in the house now that it's finished. That I was like, I like creating, I don't like editing. And are good artists the one that create and edit? Yes, I think so. Hiring somebody else to edit for you is half-assed. This is nothing else if not half-assed. Love you, Dominic. I love you, Dominic. But it's interesting to collaborate. And there are lots of people who write things, and then the editors are what really make something out of those things. I mean, Grauer, Holtz, and Burroughs. And lots of other people that I don't know, the editing, writing relationships. Try it out. My mind's like, you need to update your live journal. You need to finish these projects. But yeah, I mean, something remixed, something transcribed, asking other people to do it. I guess you could pay them through that instead of trying to work with Jorge. But that's what I was thinking earlier. I was like, I tried to see if Jorge would be inspired to do that because he'd read my entire journals, but I don't know if I asked him that question. I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work. And with him, and now that I'm paying him, I have a different relationship. I'm like, oh, he's not as much my friend as he is I'm his client, or he's my assistant. He's kind of an assistant. Yeah, he's an assistant. But he's my friend. I mean, he's not charging anything, I'm paying him. That's right, he's not charging anything, I'm just paying him because I'm his friend. And I want to support him in the idea of not having to have a 9-to-5 job. I want to actually support him in the actuality of not having a 9-to-5 job. So that's one of the reasons that I'm like, thank you for being my assistant. Let me give you a little money. Anyway, so that might be interesting to try to use hit record for that. And processing might be talking to yourself or journaling or drawing or ritual or masturbation or going for a walk in the woods, painting, making music, processing. I mean, if you're really digesting life, you're creating something out of it, like food and shit and body. So it's intrinsic to the creation process to spend time digesting. And in the old days, things were polished like pearls. In the current era, some things are, and a lot of things aren't. And although I would love to be a more skilled pearl polisher, I am crude. Yet. Not on the way down. A sine wave. It's not perfectly sine, I don't think. I guess it's fine to tell it in here. I was going to tell a story about death bears, and I didn't use the random number generator. I just felt inspired. Thinking. Like the rainbow ball, beach ball of death, spinning. It's not that anymore. What do the people call that thing? Abstract, clack, clock, secondhand. Abstract, analog, secondhand. Doesn't really have the same ring as the beach ball of death. So, I don't even know what number it is. I haven't looked it up. But death bears. So, I'll do my best to be discreet. I had this fascination with bears when I was younger. I got into the hairy men thing and there was no logic to it. There was attraction, and then logic comes afterwards. And there might be a pheromone, male, masculine, secondary masculine traits or whatever. But they very quickly progressed into fat bears from muscular bears, and the furry, and then the fat. And then the fat itself became an attraction. And the logic that I came up with about the bears was that they were like masculine, hairy, strong, fierce, but also rounded, soft, kind of goofy and nurturing, like a mother. Feminine, masculine, feminine, a different type of hermaphrodite. What is the opposite of an androgyne? When you're both genders as opposed to neither gender. Pangeneous? If you're all genders possible? Or at least masculine and feminine. Anyway. The chub thing I got into thinking like, bringing this carried into my bear description, rationalization. is that they like life so much. All those little hairs are reaching out into reality to experience more, to be more sensual, more in touch with the details of existing, the pleasure, and their sheer joy of the sensual realm, sheer joy, makes them fat. Because they love it. They just want more of it. And they just, oh, it's never enough. It's great. I love it. It's wonderful. Delicious. But something happened where all of a sudden it was like, every time I had sex with Leo, I got sick. And I had this sex buddy who was a gainer. And it kind of freaked me out that he fetishized himself, his fatness. Because I liked it, but I hadn't, I'd talked about bears and hairiness and daddiness even I had started to integrate, but I hadn't really integrated the, like, fat thing. And he just fetishized himself for being fat. And I was like, I'd always been like, oh, it doesn't matter that they're fat. Or, oh, I like him even though he's fat. Until I got to a point where I was like, I love them because they're fat. And it went, I remember a friend Gerald saying to me, he was just like, oh, I just can't, I don't know how you can have sex with them. I mean, doesn't it bother you what's in their colons? Because there's this whole idea that one of the reasons people are fat is because their colons get compacted, and it's just like, 20-year-old, like, composted shit packed into the colon and swelling it out. Sounds really gross, but I mean, that was what he was referencing. And I had read things about that before. I had never added the two together, that just like all fat people, in which the ones I'm attracted to, as other people have said to me, Dominic, without McDonald's, even though you hate it and you haven't eaten there in 20 years, without McDonald's, none of the men you like would look the way you liked. And I was just like, oh. And it's not true, but it's partially true. A lot of the life choices that I make about not eating certain things, like, the bears love, no problem. And it's just the overdosing all the time. The cake. I want sheet cakes from, oh God, I went on this rampage a couple days ago that was really funny, that I was talking about, like, oh yeah, it was about why we reincarnate. And I was just like, yeah, you came back so you could have sheet cakes from Costco. You just wanted one more taste of those delicious sheet cakes from Costco. But it was more funny than that. I had a more intricate buildup. Doesn't matter. But that thing, the desire bodies, the bodies began to look pathological to me. Like, at one point in time, watching people smoke looked really sexy, and then it just started to look like drug addicts killing themselves in public. And that was like, wow, that was such an interesting paradigm shift. And so the same thing started happening with the fat. And especially as Leo got sick, and it was like, oh, the fat, the cancer. And lots of other people were like, the fat, the cancer, the fat, the diabetes, the fat, the heart attack. Overindulgence. Fragmented decay. And this gainer friend of mine, after knowing him a few years, I talked him through his actual attractions. Like, I guess he just became more comfortable or needed to verbalize, and I'm someone that people can verbalize to, or I asked him the right questions, or just time passed enough. And this way, he expressed to me, the real motivation behind his gaining. Like, he would always be neurotic about, oh God, am I going to have a heart attack? Oh God, are my ankles giving out? Oh, my knees, and his body was actually fine. I mean, but he had lots of other weird health problems, but they were somehow related to his fatness, but he didn't know. But what he was really worried about, the things that would kill him, because his fantasy was that someday he would get so fat that he couldn't move, and he would die from not being able to move. And he was very attracted to that. But some guy he had talked with online, who he'd been talking about this fetish with, said, oh no, you're going to move here and be with me and liquidate all of your assets and give me all of your money, and I'm going to feed you, and I'm going to fuck you. And this guy was HIV positive and not on meds. He's like, I'm going to fuck you, I'm going to give you AIDS, and I'm going to make you starve to death, or I'm going to feed you till you can't move, and then you just die of AIDS. Like, that was actually, or he'd die. It's like you'll die of AIDS or a suffocation because he was one of those people who believes he can't live without a CPAP anymore. And he said like that was his actual attraction. So this guy, when he realized that this guy was spinning up the exact actual fantasy that he wanted, and he was so close to doing it, that's when he like sought help. And it was very difficult to have sex with him because I had this whole fantasy that I wanted to have sex with people because they loved life and I didn't understand life. And they loved life, so I wanted them inside of me. I wanted their seed, their essence, to teach me how to live, to want to be alive, to take joy in this world. Because in my youth, everything would be like, it's a blue sky, there's no clouds and it's sunny and you're going to get skin cancer and die. Like really quick, just boom. I love corn chips. Oh, slave labor and processing and chemicals and denatured and rancid and trans fats and obesity and diabetes and death. Like most of my life things have been like that. Like when I would do drugs when I was young, it was all like, and this is going to damage my brain in this way. I wanted people that apparently that wasn't the case for them. That they were able to move through life and just be like, this is great. I just love it. It's everything I wanted. I so want to buy clothes and spend lots of money. This is the greatest. I'm going to be famous. I thought that'd be great. And that I could somehow absorb it. You are what you eat. And I was like, well, you just want to die. I used to feel like that. I've been trying to have sex with people to not feel like that. So, am I your friend if I don't want to have sex with you because I believe you're poison? Your energy's poison? Fuck, is that what I really want? Is that really like a hidden motivation? How do I not feel like this? I don't want to feel like this. And around the same time, there's a guy I'd been having sex with for a while who was in his 60s, and he... early in meeting him, he told me about a friend of his who he'd loved who became HIV positive. This is before I was HIV positive. Who became HIV positive, and just it was so sad. He had this huge sadness about his friend becoming HIV positive, that his friend was still alive, just not living in New York anymore. And I reminded him a lot of his friend. He said, God, I hope you don't become HIV positive. And when we fuck, it was like this crazy passion. It felt amazing. And he was just like wild animal. Italian, Taurus. Yeah. And then after I became positive, we didn't see each other for a while, and then we saw each other again. So this is in the process. And he, we started to have kind of like a psychic connection that you get when you have awesome sex with people. And he would get really stoned and drink a little. And he just wanted me to suck his dick. I mean, after I became positive, he became afraid of fucking me. That's what it was. He just wanted me to suck his dick. And his dad was dying. His dad was 90 or 90s something. And he was almost 70 at this point. And it was a strange feeling. Like, I'd get stoned with them, so I'd have even that kind of psychic connection with them, some kind of unspoken connection. And to me, it just felt like, from the things he said and the way he felt, the subtext of his sexual desire was, life is so exhausting. I just wish I were dead. Could you do that for me? Could you suck all the life out of me till I'm dead? Could you give me an orgasm that actually kills me instead of little kills me? And it wasn't even like a murder sensation, fantasy desire. It was literally, that I want to be drained. I'm a top. I want to be drained. People say things like that. What exactly do they want to be drained of? What kind of pus? Oh, no, not pus. No. vital life essence, manhood, strength. Too much strength, too much anger, too much frustration, too much sadness, too much death urge. All this life force and I don't know what to do with it. Gonna have to kill something. It was a sadness, a desperation. I just want to be drained of all of it. And man, the way he came, that passion turned from something that seemed very life-devouring to something that was desperately wishing to be entirely released. And I was like, to give this guy what he wants, I'd have to kill him. And I don't mean like murder him, but I mean like, give him a heart attack or something. And one of the last times we had sex, the last time we had sex, he was smoking pot, drinking scotch, smoking a cigarette, and smoking crack. And he was like 72 or something. And there was television on and radio. And I was like, oh my God. The weird passion, connection, the beauty I saw in him, all of it kind of, withered away during the years of my depression. And it boiled down to that. That's all there was. When I first met him, I had agreed. I wished he would just take me in, like he'd taken in some other stray. But I would love him, whereas the stray didn't. The stray just needed him. And maybe that was too scary, or he didn't believe it was possible, or he felt like having it for a short period of time would be too painful because it would never last. I don't know the answer to that. But when I noticed this tendency in these two bears, and the thing about Leo dying of cancer, that again, all this fatness, this happiness, this hedonism that I had known with him, I had believed it was some kind of solution, some kind of better way to live, to be happy and wise. Kind, grateful, enjoying everything. But again, watching him die, it seemed like he was clinging and angry and confused and hiding. It didn't look graceful or attractive to me. I mean, death with dignity. 5 red hens. So what I had nourished for years, this kind of glorified attraction to this older, wiser, fat, furry, joyous life, gourmands, the blessed Bacchus. Oh, how delicious all the wine, all the sex, all the food, all the world, the traveling, the beauty. I'd glorified it and tried to nourish it and be a part of it and sing its praises, evangelize it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, what's inside of that? Death. The fear of death, the desire for death. Very common, the desire for death. And the ignorance of it, because it's not allowed in our culture. But it's natural. So, it happens all the time, the death urge. What was it? There's 3, I think there's all these lists of 3 things of suffering in Buddhism, and there's one that's like, one of the things that causes suffering is the desire to become. So to become better, to become happier, to become wiser, richer, famous, to become things, to be born again. The desire that makes you born again, it can be as broad as that or as specific as to become something specific. But it's becoming, the desire to becoming. And one of the others was the desire for unbecoming. And I guess you can have suffering of just being like, I don't want to be fat anymore. I guess these are negative life impulses. I'd never processed it like this. It's nice to talk and all of a sudden have a realization about it. It's one of the reasons I like talking and writing. It's part of how I process reality. Hi. But of course, ultimately, that's death. They say that the base instinct of everything that's alive is to stay alive. You can't hold your breath until you die, because as soon as you pass out, you'll start breathing again. What is it that makes your heart beat all the time? Anyway, that you can have this desire to live, and you can also live with the desire to die. You can have both concurrently. There's nothing that says you can't. He told me I look like the cowardly lion, but I'm sure you've been told that before. Nope, that was the first time. I have been told I look like lions, of course, but not specifically him. Courage. I only got the courage. That's what it was. Becoming, unbecoming. Yeah, so anyway, there's a lot of programming to knock one off course when everyone's like, I want to die. I want to die on a bed of spikes. I want to die just like Jesus Christ. What is that song? I want to die. That's Jesus, Mary Chain anyway. To look at and be with the desire to die is so unpleasant, and yet sometimes so deep-rooted. And so my vision all of a sudden went from this like chasing a life force, chasing a color, a cloud, a wave, a channel of those who are like, I cannot get enough of this living thing. It is so great. I just want to do it forever. Because I just didn't feel like that. I felt like this is exhausting and I want to get out of here. How do I get out of here? That I thought that these bears were some kind of going to reparent me biologically or psychologically or emotionally or financially or something. And I was like, well, that school, that diocese, no? Sect, I don't know, that religion of sensuality, the Buddhists, they specifically say it's just one of those hindrances to desire. Sensual pleasure is something that just leads for more suffering, which always leads to more death, because every time you reincarnate, you have to die. Maybe some people get back on the roller coaster just to have that thrill of dying again. That the purpose of life for some people is death, to build up some beautiful pyramid to swan dive off of. Anyway, I was very hurt by this. Of course, there's no better neurotic way to take things than to get hurt by them. Thought I'd show you the path behind me, but it's not to be. God, stick to the point. we taka, we chara, we taka, we chara. So it became very painful to feel that all of my... Oh, so at the time I externalized them and called them the death bears. That these are, I'm specifically attracted to death bears. That there are life bears, but I'm specifically attracted to death bears. And that was really a bummer because it was this thing that had been kind of propelling me through life. It was the carrot. It was like, yes, the sexiness, the hotness, the love, the pleasure, the hope, the fun. We're going to have fun. I just want to learn how to have fun. But it was not that I felt like I fit in with them, because I didn't. I felt like I wanted to fit in with them. There's some Stephen Jesse Bernstein line where he's like, I hated them so much I wanted to grow up and go with them. But that I wanted to be like them more than a Martha Wainwright way, And they are gone, they are gone, they are gone. I want to be like that. There's a lot of song references I can make like that, I guess. Because that's always what it's been. I just want to live like someone who wants to live. That'd be great. People are like, I never see that in you. You seem to enjoy life more than anyone I know. And I'm like, I seem to. Maybe I do, because I'm trying so hard. Maybe I do. I don't think so. But that's neither hither or thither. This isn't about me. This is about the death bears. And I'm learning something about me in the death bears story, because it's just ubiquitous now. I was making a separation where I was telling this story. I said there are life bears and there are death bears. Maybe there are people going up and people going down. And that's the thanatotic ideation and the erotic ideation. Whatever dichotomy Freud had created. Look who's talking, sitting in the shade with mosquitoes. It's pretty funny. I didn't really even realize that. That was good. And you with a parasol. This is not about a resolution. But it's a difficulty in stories where you're like, so there's this thing, death bears, I identified it. I somehow connected my erotic charge to my death charge. And it made a gigantic, beautiful bomb of suffering. Yeah, it's basically like that. That became this big problem. And during the 3-month retreat, I was like, oh my God, I so hate what I love, and I love what I hate, and I have severe aversion for what I have greed for. I have hatred for what I have greed for. Oh, no. Fear. Connecting the outvent to the invent. Invent something new. Invent something new. New. It doesn't have to be new. You can just change the channel. And so this is just another manifestation of it. That's why it's a fine coupling of storytelling and blathering. I was giving the chicken time to speak. It would be nice, right? To get carried away. But that's not what you want. You want to be free, or you at least want to be awake so that you can be the most useful. That's enough, isn't it? You just want to be awake so that you can be the most useful. We're all going to die. We're all going to live. I think it was a dream I had in the last few days about accidentally causing the universe to end. Time, a construct like an organ. It does something that allows other things to happen. Without that, other things wouldn't happen. And the Indian system, the yugas, talk about how we're in the Kali Yuga, which we still have. I mean, we're just like 5,000 years into this Kali Yuga cycle. So I think it's another 495,000 years. Century! Until this yuga ends. But there's still, countless billions of years more before the entire universe turns off and resets. I mean, it won't just reset, it'll turn off for an infinite amount of time because there'll be no time. And then time will probably exist again. But anyway, that there's no hope waiting for it to wind down, is I guess the logic there. There's no hope waiting for it to be solved. But hope is a delusion and a sickness. So if you're hoping and you're basing things on hope, then you're already kind of lost. So you can work for... I don't even think you can actually work for the unbecoming. It's so tricky. You just have to keep releasing into it. But the same is true about the becoming, the completing, the solving. Bringing all the fragments back together. The Purusha. Fragments. You can't wait for it to be solved, but you can work on it. You can work on it and pray on it and stay on it. You can work on it and pray on it and stay on it. With peace, patience, and persistence. It's just an option.